The shuttle descended through the thin atmosphere of Iridia X, kicking up swirls of rust-colored dust as it touched down on the barren surface. The landscape stretched out in all directions, a seemingly endless expanse of ochre plains, dotted with strange, twisted rock formations that resembled the skeletal remains of ancient beasts. The sky above hung low and heavy, tinged with an ominous yellow-green that reflected the planet's mildly toxic atmosphere. Cadet Elena Shaw adjusted her environmental suit, double-checking the seals at her wrists and neck. As the only human in a 6-member interplanetary survey team, she was acutely aware of her biological vulnerabilities. The Academy had assured her that Iridia X's atmosphere wasn't immediately lethal to humans, but prolonged exposure would lead to respiratory distress and, eventually, organ failure. Her teammates had their own environmental concerns, but most could withstand the conditions better than she could. "Final equipment check," announced the metallic voice of A.R.I.A., the team's android liaison. "Confirmed survey gear is operational." One by one, the cadets activated their scanning equipment, environmental monitors, and communication devices. A series of affirmative chirps, clicks, and verbal confirmations filled the shuttle's cabin. "Atmospheric composition matches preliminary reports," reported Zorax, the insectoid cadet whose multifaceted eyes gleamed beneath the shuttle's lights. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he manipulated the delicate scanning equipment with his 4 specialized appendages. "Nitrogen dominant, with trace toxins consistent with sulfur-processing bacteria. Breathable for my species for approximately 12 hours before filter change." Maroon, the aquatic team member, gurgled uncomfortably inside her hydration suit. Water sources show preliminary traces of heavy metal contamination. Expected, but concerning. Her translucent skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed her anxiety. "Our standard purification technology should handle it easily, though." Elena checked her own pack, mentally cataloging its contents. Unlike her fellow cadets, who relied heavily on the latest Academy technology, she had packed a manual water filter, a simple device containing layers of sand, charcoal, and specialized cloth that she'd learned to make during her Earth survival training. It was bulky compared to the sleek purification devices her teammates carried, but she'd found comfort in the redundancy. Her instructors had always emphasized, technology fails, but knowledge endures. "What is that primitive contraption?" Velian, the reptilian cadet, asked, his forked tongue flicking out in curiosity as he noticed Elena's filter components. Elena smiled, used to such reactions. "It's a traditional water filter. Works without power, using multiple filtration layers." "How quaint," Velian replied. Scales shifting in what Elena had learned was an expression of amusement. "Though I cannot imagine needing such a thing when we have molecular purifiers." Kryn, the sentient plant member of the team, rustled their leafy appendages. "Sometimes old ways hold wisdom," they said softly. Their voice was like wind through branches. "Though I agree our equipment should be sufficient." The final member of their team, Othar, merely observed the exchange silently. The living stone being rarely contributed to conversations unless absolutely necessary, conserving energy and words with equal care. A.R.I.A.'s ocular sensors flashed blue. "Survey mission parameters received from Academy Central. Primary objective: locate and assess water sources for potential outpost development. Secondary objective: catalog indigenous microbial life. Duration: 4 standard days." 4 days in this dust bowl," muttered Zorax, mandibles clicking in distaste. "At least the shuttle will provide comfortable sleeping quarters." Elena finished securing her pack and stood. Despite being the only human, she had graduated at the top of her class in survival techniques. This mission was her chance to prove that humans deserve their place in the Interplanetary Academy, despite being one of the newer species to join. Mission commences in 5 minutes. R.I.A. announced. Prepare for disembarkation. As the shuttle's door hissed open, revealing the alien landscape of Iridia X. Elena felt a flutter of excitement beneath her anxiety. 4 days to prove herself among the best cadets the galaxy had to offer. 4 days to show that human ingenuity could match advanced alien technology. Little did she know how soon that opportunity would come. The 6 cadets and ARIA spread out in a standard search pattern, their environmental suits providing protection against the mild toxins in Iridia X's atmosphere. Elena's scanner hummed steadily, detecting minute changes in ground density that might indicate underground water reserves. Sensor sweep indicates potential water accumulation 2 kilometers north-northwest, reported ARIA after their first hour of exploration. Subsurface readings consistent with liquid reservoir. The team adjusted their course, trudging across the dusty terrain. Elena noticed how differently each of her teammates moved. Zorax skittered efficiently across the surface, his 6 legs barely disturbing the dust. Maroon's hydration suit created a peculiar waddling gait. Velian's powerful legs carried him in long, loping strides. Kryn seemed to flow across the ground, their root-like lower extremities somehow finding purchase in the loose soil. And Author moved with ponderous, deliberate steps that left deep impressions in the ground. After nearly an hour of hiking, they crested a low ridge and found themselves looking down into a shallow depression. At its center, a small pool of liquid gleamed with an unnatural blue-green sheen. First water source located. AIA confirmed, updating their mission log. Proceed with sampling and analysis. Maroon, as the team's hydrologist, approached the pool first. Her specialized equipment extended from her hydration suit, dipping delicate probes into the liquid. Initial readings show high mineral content, she reported, her voice bubbling through her translator. Significant heavy metal presence, particularly copper and arsenic compounds. Some biological activity detected. Elena frowned, studying the readout on her own scanner. Those arsenic levels would be lethal to humans without treatment, she observed. Most species would find it problematic, agreed Velian, his scaled brow furrowing. Though my kind could process small quantities. Standard purifiers should render it safe, Maroon stated confidently, extracting a sleek, silvery device from her pack. Academy-issue molecular restructuring filters are rated for concentrations 10 times this level. The team watched as Maroon filled a collection vessel with the blue-green water and attached it to her purifier. The device hummed softly, its display lighting up with scrolling data as it processed the liquid. Processing complete, Maroon announced after a moment. She disconnected the vessel, now containing what appeared to be clear water. Contaminants removed to safety standards for all registered Academy species. To demonstrate her confidence, Maroon connected the vessel to her hydration suit and took a small sip. Acceptable, she declared, though the mineral aftertaste is stronger than ideal. Elena nodded, but something about the water source troubled her. Her training on Earth had taught her to be wary of water that looked too inviting in harsh environments. Can you conduct a deeper scan for biological contaminants, particularly ones that might not register on standard equipment? Sensors whirred as the android complied with the request. No additional contaminants detected within standard parameters, came the reply. However, there are trace organic compounds of unknown classification. Probability of risk, minimal. What's that in your pack? Maroon asked suddenly, noticing Elena removing components of her manual filter. You're not seriously considering using that primitive setup, are you? Elena laid out the components: containers, charcoal, sand, and specially treated cloth. "Just being thorough," she replied evenly. "My instructors always said to have backup systems for critical resources like water." Maroon's skin flashed with patterns that Elena recognized as derision. "How charmingly archaic. Next, you'll be starting fires by rubbing sticks together." "Actually," Elena said with a slight smile, "I can do that too." Zorax chittered, the insectoid equivalent of laughter. "The human wishes to play with dirt while we use molecular restructuring technology. Perhaps we should let her, for anthropological value." Elena felt her cheeks flush, but continued assembling her filter. It was a reaction she'd grown accustomed to at the academy. Many of the non-human cadets viewed humans as technologically primitive. Despite humanity's rapid advancement since joining the interplanetary community. "I'll collect additional samples for our survey," she said, keeping her voice professional as she filled several containers with the unfiltered water. Kryn moved closer, their leafy appendages rustling with interest. "Would you explain your process? My species values traditional knowledge." Grateful for the support. Elena walked Kryn through the setup of her manual filter, how the different-sized particles of sand caught progressively smaller contaminants, how the charcoal absorbed toxins, and how the special cloth captured microscopic threats. "Fascinating simplicity," Kryn commented, their leaves changing to a deeper green that indicated genuine interest. "May I assist?" Before Elena could respond, Maroon suddenly doubled over, her hydration suit bubbling violently. "Something's wrong," she gasped, her voice distorted through her translator. "The water, it's causing a reaction." The team rushed to Maroon's side as she collapsed onto the dusty ground, her translucent skin now pulsing with alarming red patterns. A-R-I-A immediately began diagnostic procedures, scanning Maroon's vital signs. Detecting severe biochemical disruption, the android reported, consistent with toxic reaction to unknown compound. Immediate medical intervention required. Velian and Zorax carefully lifted their stricken teammate, carrying her back toward the shuttle where the medical equipment was stored. Elena gathered her filter components hurriedly, a sick feeling settling in her stomach. Something in that water had bypassed Maroon's advanced purifier, something their equipment hadn't detected. As the team rushed back to the shuttle, Elena's mind raced. Could her simple filter have removed whatever had affected Maroon? The question would have to wait. Right now, their teammate's life was in danger. Inside the shuttle, administered emergency treatment to Maroon, injecting stabilizing compounds into her hydration suit. The aquatic cadet's condition stabilized, but she remained unconscious, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing weakly. Toxin analysis incomplete. A reported. Compound structure is complex and adaptive. It appears to have reconfigured itself after initial purification, becoming toxic only after processing. A tense silence fell over the team. Their most advanced technology had failed to detect a potentially lethal threat in the very first water source they'd encountered. "What are our options?" Other finally spoke, the living stone being's voice rumbling like shifting earth. Zocular sensors flashed. "Incoming transmission from Academy Central." The shuttle's communication screen activated, displaying the stern visage of Commandant Zalvis, the multi-limbed administrator who oversaw cadet field missions. "Oh, status report received," the Commandant began without preamble. "Cadet Maroon's condition is concerning. Your mission parameters have been updated. You have 4 standard days to locate a safe water source, or the mission will be aborted. 3 medical emergencies will trigger immediate evacuation and mission failure. Understand that Iridia X is a priority for potential colonization. Your success is vital to the Academy's expansion plans." The screen went dark before any of the cadets could respond. 4 days, Zorax repeated, his mandibles clicking anxiously. To find safe water on a planet where even our advanced purifiers failed. Elena looked at her manual filter components, still clutched in her hands. I want to try something, she said quietly. With the water sample I collected. Velian's scales shifted skeptically. You believe your arrangement of rocks and cloth will succeed where molecular restructuring technology failed? I don't know, Elena admitted. But different methods might catch different contaminants. It's worth trying. Without waiting for further debate, Elena set up her filtration system, carefully layering the components in the correct order. She slowly poured a small amount of the blue-green water into the top of her filter, watching as it percolated through the layers. While the human plays with her primitive toys, I will analyze the toxin further, Zorax announced, moving to the shuttle's science station. Perhaps a recalibration of our purifiers is all that's needed. Elena ignored the jab, focusing on her work. After several minutes, clear water began dripping from the bottom of her filter into a collection vessel. She ran her scanner over it, then frowned at the results. Can you analyze this filtered sample? She asked, holding up the vessel. The android took the water and performed a comprehensive scan. Analysis complete. Heavy metals reduced by 78.4%. Biological contaminants reduced by 62.3%. Unknown compounds still present, but molecular structure appears altered. Altered how? Elena pressed. Insufficient data for complete determination. Replied. However, the compound appears less complex, potentially less reactive. Elena considered this information. So my filter didn't remove it entirely, but changed it somehow? That is a reasonable hypothesis. Confirmed. Not good enough, Velian stated flatly. We need water that's completely safe, not partially filtered. Agreed, said Zorax from the science station. My analysis suggests our purifiers failed because they didn't recognize the compound's ability to reconfigure itself. With this data, I can reprogram them to account for this behavior. Elena nodded, acknowledging the limitation of her approach. Still, she couldn't help but feel there was value in the different method. What if we combined approaches? She suggested. Use my filter first to alter the compound, then run it through the purifiers? Zorax's antennae twitched dismissively. Unnecessary complication. Once recalibrated, our technology will handle everything. As night fell on Iridia X, the team settled into an uneasy rest cycle. Maroon had regained consciousness, but remained weak, confined to a medical pod that continuously cycled fresh fluids through her hydration suit. The mood inside the shuttle was tense. Their first day had nearly ended in disaster, and they still had no safe water source. Elena lay awake in her bunk, mind racing with potential solutions. She believed in the Academy's technology, but also in the wisdom of her Earth training. There had to be a way to combine the best of both approaches. With this thought lingering in her mind, she finally drifted into an uneasy sleep. The second day dawned with a blood-red sunrise that painted Iridia X's barren landscape in crimson hues. The team prepared for another survey expedition, equipment checked and rechecked after the previous day's failure. I've recalibrated our purifiers, Zorax announced, his exoskeleton gleaming in the morning light. They should now detect and neutralize the adaptive compounds we encountered. Excellent work. Acknowledged. Today's survey will focus on the eastern sector, where orbital scans indicated potential subterranean water systems. As the team prepared to disembark, Elena approached Kryn. Would you be willing to help me with something? She asked quietly. The plant being's leaves rustled curiously. What do you propose? I'd like to improve my filtration system, Elena explained. Your species has an innate understanding of natural processes. I thought perhaps you might have insights on additional filtration materials we could find here on Iridia X. Crin's leaves shifted to a thoughtful blue-green. An intriguing proposition. My people have developed natural filtration systems on many worlds. I would be pleased to collaborate. With A.R.I.A.'s approval. Elena and Crin branched off from the main team, searching for potentially useful materials while still contributing to the overall survey. As they explored, Crin identified several promising organisms, a type of fibrous moss growing in the shadows of rock formations, mineral deposits with absorbent properties, and a crystalline substance that might serve as a natural ion exchanger. Life adapts to filter toxins specific to its environment, Crin explained as they collected samples. These organisms have evolved to process Iridia X's particular contaminants. Elena nodded, carefully storing each sample. That's why regional knowledge is so valuable. Universal solutions don't always account for local variations. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from A.R.I. Return to the main team immediately. Cadet Velian has fallen ill. Elena and Crin rushed back to find Velian collapsed beside another water source, this one a narrow stream trickling between rocky outcroppings. The reptilian cadet's scales had taken on a sickly gray hue, and his breathing was labored. What happened? Elena asked, as she helped Zorax and Othar lift their stricken teammate. Water analysis showed different composition from yesterday's source, Zorax explained, mandibles clicking anxiously. Purifier indicated safe consumption after processing. Velian tested it first. Different toxic compound. Same outcome. Othar rumbled grimly. The purifier failed again. They carried Velian back to the shuttle, where A.R.I. immediately began treatment. 2 cadets down in less than 2 days. Their mission was quickly becoming a disaster. While A.R.I. tended to Velian, Elena spread out her collected materials on a workbench and began experimenting with different combinations. Crin assisted, their botanical knowledge proving invaluable in understanding how the native organisms filtered toxins. Your people's approach has merit, Crin observed as they worked. Starting with mechanical and natural filtration before applying technology, Elena smiled gratefully. On Earth, we learned this the hard way. Advanced doesn't always mean better. Sometimes it just means more complex, with more points of failure. Their work continued into the evening, eventually producing 3 prototype filters that incorporated both Earth techniques and Iridia X materials. Each was designed to target different potential contaminants. I'd like to test these on our collected water samples, Elena proposed to A.R.I. Once they'd finished. The android considered the request. Proceed with caution. Monitor for any unexpected reactions. Elena and Crin carefully ran samples of both water sources through their prototype filters, then submitted the filtered water for analysis. The results were promising. The unknown compounds had been significantly altered, rendered less complex and potentially less harmful. Now, let's try running this pre-filtered water through the standard purifiers, Elena suggested. When they did so, the purifiers processed the water without error, producing samples that registered as completely safe according to Academy standards. It appears the combination of approaches is effective. A.R.I. noted. The natural filtration alters the compounds sufficiently that the purifiers can then properly identify and neutralize them. Elena felt a surge of hope. We should present this to the team. But when they brought their findings to the others, the reception was mixed. Zorax remained skeptical, his antennae twitching in disapproval. You're suggesting we rely on primitive filtration as part of our official process? He chittered incredulously. The Academy would never approve such a regression in methodology. 2 cadets are in medical pods because our advanced methodology failed, Elena pointed out, trying to keep frustration from her voice. What matters more, following protocol or finding water we can safely drink? I have made additional calibrations to our purifiers, Zorax insisted. Tomorrow's expedition will prove their effectiveness without resorting to dirt and rocks. Othar, who had remained largely silent until now, finally spoke. The stone does not reject a path because it is old, the living rock being rumbled. It asks only if the path leads where it must go. The team fell silent, considering Othar's words. Finally, A made a decision. We will test both approaches tomorrow. Safety takes priority over methodology. As the third day began, the situation grew more dire. Overnight, Zorax himself had developed symptoms of toxicity, likely from handling the water samples during his recalibration efforts. Now, 3 of the 6 cadets were in medical pods, and the team was approaching the threshold for mission abortion. One more medical emergency, and Academy Central will terminate our mission. A reminded the remaining active team members, Elena, Kryn, and Othar. Today's objective is critical. They set out with grim determination, heading toward a promising underground cavern system detected during yesterday's survey. The trek was longer than previous expeditions, taking them nearly 4 hours across increasingly rugged terrain. The entrance to the cavern system was narrow, barely wide enough for Othar's bulky form to squeeze through. Inside, the temperature dropped noticeably, and the air held a damp quality that had been absent on the surface. Detecting significant water accumulation, reported as they ventured deeper. Approximately 300 meters ahead, the passage eventually opened into a large chamber where a pool of dark water filled a natural basin. Unlike the previous sources, this water appeared black in the beam of their lights, reflecting nothing. Proceeding with analysis, announced, deploying sensor equipment. The readings were concerning. This water contained the highest concentration of heavy metals yet, along with several unknown biological elements. But most worrying was the presence of the same adaptive compounds that had sickened their teammates, now in concentrations nearly twice as high. Standard purification not recommended. Concluded. Risk factor exceeds acceptable parameters. Elena looked at Kryn and Othar. Let's try our combined approach. Working methodically, they set up one of the prototype filters created the previous day. Elena carefully collected a sample of the black water and began the filtration process. The water that emerged was still dark, but had lost its oily quality. First stage complete, she announced. Now for the purifier. They ran the pre-filtered water through a standard purifier, closely monitoring the process. To their relief, the device completed its cycle without error, producing clear water that registered as safe across all measured parameters. Analysis confirms water is within safety standards for all team species. Reported after comprehensive testing. Combined filtration approach appears successful. Othar reached for the processed water. I will test it first, the stone being volunteered. My physiology is most resistant to toxins. Before anyone could object, Othar had consumed a small amount of the water. They all watched anxiously, but after 15 minutes, no adverse reactions appeared. Water accepted, Othar confirmed, voice rumbling with what might have been satisfaction. Elena felt a profound sense of relief. They had found a solution, not through advanced technology alone, but through combining traditional methods with modern tools. It was a vindication of her belief in the value of Earth's seemingly primitive techniques. We should collect sufficient quantities for the remaining mission duration and for our teammates' recovery. Suggested. As they worked to process more water, Elena noticed Kryn experimenting with additional local materials, adding them to one of the prototype filters. What are you doing? she asked curiously. The local moss appears to have natural detoxifying properties, Kryn explained. Leafy appendages working with surprising dexterity. I believe it may enhance the filtration process further, particularly for the biological compounds specific to this planet. Elena smiled. That's exactly the kind of adaptation I was hoping for, using local knowledge to improve the system. By the time they returned to the shuttle, they had processed enough water for several days and had refined their filtration method further. But their triumph was dampened by troubling news. Maroon's condition had worsened dramatically during their absence. Toxin has mutated within her system. Explained. Ocular sensors flashing with urgency. Medical pods struggling to maintain homeostasis. Evacuation protocols may be necessary. Wait, Elena said, holding up their newly filtered water. Could this help? The combination filtration removed the compounds that caused her illness. A.R. considered the suggestion. Theoretical potential exists. However, Academy protocol for third medical emergency is clear. Immediate evacuation. And then what? Elena challenged. The mission fails? Iridia X is deemed unsuitable for colonization because we couldn't solve a water filtration problem? The human speaks with emotion, not logic, came a weak voice. They turned to see Zorax conscious in his medical pod, mandibles moving feebly. But, perhaps, there is logic in her emotion. What harm in trying her solution before evacuation? A.R.I.A.'s processor's word as the android calculated options. Providing filtered water to affected cadets presents minimal additional risk. Proceeding with treatment. They carefully administered the filtered and purified water to their stricken teammates, monitoring closely for any reactions. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the steady beeping of medical equipment and A.R.I.A.'s periodic status updates. As the alien sun set on their third day on Iridia X, Elena sat beside Maroon's pod, watching the aquatic cadets' bioluminescent patterns. For hours, they had remained weak and erratic. But now, almost imperceptibly, they seemed to be strengthening, becoming more regular. Elena called softly. I think there's a change in Maroon's condition. The android conducted a scan. Confirmed. Toxin levels decreasing by 4.3%. Vital signs showing marginal improvement. Similar improvements were noted in Velian and Zorax. The combined filtration approach was working, slowly, but definitely. Continue hydration with filtered water. A.R.I.A. instructed. And prepare report for Academy Central on filtration methodology. As Elena worked on documenting their process, she realized that something fundamental had shifted within the team. There was a new respect in the way the others looked at her primitive approach, not as an amusing relic of human backwardness, but as a valuable complement to their advanced technology. By morning, the improvement in their teammates was undeniable. Maroon's bioluminescence had returned to healthy patterns. Velian scales had regained their proper color, and Zorax was able to sit up in his pod, mandibles clicking with normal vigor. The combined filtration system has proven remarkably effective. A.I.A. reported during the morning briefing. Academy Central has approved continuation of the mission with modified parameters. We have been granted an additional 2 standard days to fully document the filtration methodology for potential implementation in colonization protocols. Elena could hardly believe what she was hearing. Not only had their approach worked, but the Academy was considering adopting it as standard procedure for Iridia X operations. Additionally, A.R.I.A. continued. The methodology will be officially documented as the Shaw filtration process in recognition of Cadet Elena Shaw's contribution. A warm feeling of pride spread through Elena's chest. After countless instances of having her old-fashioned human techniques dismissed or mocked, here was validation at the highest level. "This is acceptable," Zorax acknowledged, his previous condescension notably absent. The combination of approaches proved superior to either method alone. "My people have a saying," Kryn added, leaves rustling gently. "New growth depends on ancient roots." We were reminded of this wisdom here. The final 2 days of their extended mission were devoted to refining the filtration process and documenting its effectiveness with different water sources across Iridia X. Elena worked closely with each team member, incorporating their specialized knowledge to improve the system further. Merun, once fully recovered, proved especially valuable. Her intimate understanding of hydrological processes, helping to optimize the flow rates through the natural filters. "I was wrong to dismiss your method," she admitted to Elena as they worked. "My people's history includes similar techniques, but I had been taught they were obsolete. Perhaps we have been too quick to abandon traditional knowledge." Velian contributed his species' expertise in mineral interactions, identifying specific rock types on Iridia X that could enhance the filtration of heavy metals. "My ancestors used crystalline structures for water purification before molecular technology," he explained, scales shifting in a pattern that Elena now recognized as thoughtful reflection. There is wisdom in remembering old ways. Even Zorax found ways to contribute, his precise understanding of biological contaminants, helping to target specific compounds with appropriate filtration materials. "Efficiency can be found in simplicity," he conceded, mandibles clicking in what might have been embarrassment. "My prejudice against primitive methods was unscientific." As their final day on Iridia X drew to a close, the team gathered around a small pool of filtered water, each with a container appropriate to their species' needs. "I propose a gesture of unity," Othar rumbled, raising his crystalline vessel. "To drink together of water made safe through our combined knowledge." One by one, they drank, Elena from her standard container, Maroon through her hydration suit, Velian from a specially designed vessel that accommodated his reptilian features, Zorax using a proboscis-like attachment, Kryn absorbing the liquid directly through a specialized leaf, and Othar pouring the water into a small depression in his stone surface where it was slowly absorbed. "The Academy teaches us to value advancement," R.I.A. observed, the android's ocular sensors shifting to a warm amber hue. "But this mission has demonstrated the equal importance of tradition and adaptation. This lesson will be highlighted in my mission report." As they prepared the shuttle for departure the next morning, Elena took a final moment to look out at the barren landscape of Iridia X. What had initially seemed like a hostile, unforgiving world now felt like a place of profound learning. Not just about water filtration, but about the value of diverse approaches and the danger of technological arrogance. Shuttle launch sequence initiated. A.R.I.A. announced as they strapped into their seats. Mission officially classified as successful. Academy Central sends commendations to all team members. The shuttle lifted off, rising through Iridia X's thin atmosphere toward the waiting Academy transport in orbit. As the planet shrank beneath them, Elena reflected on how differently the mission had turned out from her expectations. She had come to prove that humans deserved their place in the Interplanetary Academy. Instead, she had helped demonstrate that no species approach was complete on its own, that true advancement came not from discarding the old in favor of the new, but from finding the wisdom in both. "Cadet Shaw," Maroon's voice bubbled through her translator. "The Academy Hydrological Division has requested your presence for a seminar on traditional filtration techniques upon our return." Elena smiled. "I'd be honored, though I think we should make it a team presentation. After all, the Shaw filtration process is really the work of all of us. Agreed, rumbled Arthur. No stone stands alone. As the shuttle docked with the transport that would return them to the Academy, Elena knew that something important had changed. The next generation of cadets might learn to value Earth's primitive techniques alongside the most advanced alien technology. And perhaps more importantly, her teammates had gained a new respect not just for human methods, but for the traditional knowledge of all species. It was a small victory in the vast expanse of interstellar education. But like her water filter, its impact would ripple outward, one drop at a time, gradually transforming the environment around it. The Shaw filtration process would become standard protocol for Academy operations on Iridia X and similar environments. More significantly, it would inspire a renewed interest in traditional survival techniques across species, leading to a more balanced approach to interplanetary exploration. And for Elena, it was vindication of what she had always believed, that human ingenuity and the wisdom of Earth's traditions had valuable contributions to make to the interstellar community, not despite their simplicity, but because of it. As the transport accelerated toward Academy headquarters, Elena looked around at her teammates, no longer skeptical aliens mocking her primitive methods, but colleagues who had learned to value diversity of approach as much as advanced technology. It was, she decided, a successful mission indeed.